The date is Wednesday, April 1. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. An island-wide curfew will come into effect today, April 1, from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. for the next 7 days. The measure is part of efforts to stem the spread of the new coronavirus disease, COVID-19. The Jamaican government has listed the categories of people who will be exempt from the curfew order. Prime Minister Andrew Holness addressed Parliament on Tuesday concerning the curfew.
I've been getting calls from persons saying that we have imposed stay-at-home orders from 8 p.m. on the 1st until 6 a.m. on the 8th. That means when you go in at 8 p.m., you don't come back out until 6 a.m. on the 8th. That's not the case, Mr. Speaker. Let us be clear. That is not the case. Thank you. When I heard the interpretation, Mr. Speaker, but I can understand. I mean, I found it amusing because there are two forces operating in Jamaica, Mr. Speaker.
Business lobby groups in Western Jamaica are in support of the island-wide curfew. President of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Pbcj, Janet Silvera, says the curfew is a necessary inconvenience aimed at flattening the curve. She says it will give businesses time to prepare should there be an island-wide lockdown. President of the Negril Chamber of Commerce, Richard Wallace, says the curfew is justified. Meanwhile, President of the Trelawney Chamber of Commerce, Delroy Christie, also expressed the TCC's full support for the curfew. He, however, expressed concerns as to whether the members of the security forces will be sufficient to enforce the curfew. Health officials have placed the country on notice that community transmission of COVID-19 virus is a looming possibility. In the meantime, the country has recorded its second death from the disease, and the confirmed cases have climbed to 38, among them a 13-year-old. Gabriel Thompson has the details.
Jamaica recorded its second COVID-19 death on Tuesday. 2 new positive tests were also announced, bringing the number of confirmed cases in the island to 38. The Ministry of Health and Wellness also reported that a second person from St. James has recovered from the virus and was released from hospital. According to the ministry, one of its recovering COVID-19 patients at the University Hospital of the West Indies died Tuesday afternoon. The ministry said in a news release that the patient was found unresponsive and was noted to have had a cardiac arrest. Resuscitation measures were unsuccessful. The ministry also said the 2 new cases are a 48-year-old female from St. Elizabeth with a travel history from Boston, Atlanta in the United States of America, who arrived in the island on March 24, and a 13-year-old male from Kingston and St. Andrew. His mode of transmission is under investigation. In relation to the 38 confirmed cases, the ministry said additional results received Monday evening from the National Influenza Center showed that of the 9 pending results, 7 samples tested negative, while 2 were positive for COVID-19. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
Opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Morris Guy, wants more testing of persons to control the spread of the coronavirus in Jamaica. He said the criteria for persons to be tested should be widened to include persons in quarantine.
We have been pushing for the whole aspect of the protocol relating to testing, because we feel, as is the established protocol abroad from the World Health Organization, that is only testing that will give us the right amount.
Dr. Guy also suggested that all frontline workers be tested every 2 weeks to ensure they do not contract the virus and spread it to their families.
What we are seeing is that our testing numbers are low compared to even some of our Caribbean neighbors. For Barbados, they test 1 in every 1,400 persons. Trinidad, 1 in every 2,870. But here in Jamaica, we have only been testing 1 in every 11,070 persons. So clearly, even from that perspective, we see that we need to ramp up our testing if we are to have a true picture of the pandemic. We have been told that the university hospital, the National Influenza Laboratory, is only doing about 30 to 40% of their capacity. And we would like that the ministry have that particular lab do more of the testing and utilize the redundant 60% of their capacity to do more testing.
Dr. Guy was speaking at the People's National Party's virtual media briefing recently. Members of the opposition were absent from the meeting of the lower house on Tuesday. Tuesday afternoon's sitting of the House of Representatives was held to deal with issues related to the spread of COVID-19. However, the parliamentary opposition said it was notified of the sitting too late to attend.
The Parliament was advised yesterday by telephone calls from myself from the Leader of Government Business at 2:34 that Parliament will not be sitting tomorrow. The members were advised by email at 4:30 yesterday afternoon of a similar situation. As called at 12:34 today to be told that the Parliament will be sitting and that we are expected to be there. Having communicated with our members who had made prior plans, having been told yesterday that there would not have been any sitting, we were not able to get anyone to be at the Parliament today. We want to assure the public there that we had not deliberately decided not to go to the Parliament, but we're relying on the information that had been given to us and was communicated to us both by telephone conversation and by email.
Dr. Guy said opposition members were told the sitting was necessary for compliance with the rules of Parliament.
I communicated with the leader of the opposition, business in the House, and he indicated that he would make every attempt to communicate with his members, having explained to him the situation that gave rise to us meeting today, having initially advised that we would not be meeting. And there are procedural parliamentary matters that have to be formalities that have to be undertaken. Not a single member of the opposition found it possible to be here today. I don't know of any event that would rise to the level that would necessitate them not being able to be present in the House today, or to even have a representative from the opposition to participate in this presentation by the Prime Minister. I hope Jamaica is looking on and will judge for themselves. And Mr. Speaker, I make no apology for the inference that I am drawing here with respect to their action today, because this is literally a matter of life and death.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness also addressed the issue before making his statement to the House.
The truth is, Mr. Speaker, is that all members of Parliament are on standby, as always, whether it is in normal times or in times of emergency.
The opposition said it would be willing to facilitate a sitting of the House on Wednesday. Markets across the island will now be open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. from Thursday to Saturday. This is an extension of the restricted opening hours of 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. put in place by the government as part of measures to contain the spread of the coronavirus. Speaking at a digital press conference from Jamaica House, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said it has come to his attention that persons were not observing the social distancing rule at the markets as they rushed to make their purchases ahead of the 2 p.m. closure.
This is done, Mr. Speaker, because having observed the measures and how citizens are abiding by them, we recognize that there may be congestion in the markets by virtue of the limited opening time. And so we're giving a greater period of time to allow persons who want to purchase their goods and food and wares in the market, enough time for them to make proper arrangements so that there is no congestion in the market, and to allow for greater practice of social distancing within the markets.
And the Jamaica Urban Transit Company Limited says it will be rolling out buses at 8 a.m. and the last available bus will be at 5 p.m. This is in keeping with the imposition of an island-wide curfew by the government to combat the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. JUTC Managing Director Paul Abrams said the curfew will impact all routes, but more so the premium service, which operates outside of Kingston. He said the following measures will be implemented in accordance with the curfew. The rollout of buses will start no later than 8 a.m. Routes that originate and terminate in Kingston will have a 10 to 15-minute headway. Portmore routes, out-of-town routes, including Longsville, Clarendon, Whitewater, Innswood and Old Harbour will have a 30-minute headway. Hill routes, like Above Rocks and Border, including 52, 53, 54 and 61, will have their last bus running at 4:30 p.m. The last available bus will be at 5 p.m. overall, which will allow drivers on completion of their cycle trip to return back to the depot to conclude their duties and go back home before the curfew deadline. A segment of the transport sector is complaining that it's being totally ignored in the fight against COVID-19. That from President of the Jamaica Association of Transport Owners and Operators, JATOO, Louis Burton.
We are complaining that the transport sector is being totally ignored at this crisis time. The sector is one of the most, has the most contact in any sector in Jamaica. There are 40,000 licenses given out to transport people in Jamaica.
Our news team asked Mr. Burton how the sector could be incorporated into the country's efforts to stem the viral outbreak.
Our calculation is that there are 2 million contacts between transport operators, that's the driver, and the passengers. 2 million per day, not per week, per day. Now that's a significant amount of contacts. And in this corona crisis, where contact is the most dangerous thing, we have to, the government should be paying special attention to this type of operation. Mr.
Burton also addressed the issue of taxi operators who refuse to carry healthcare workers.
It is said, because I don't really have the information, but it is said that a taximan somewhere in Jamaica refused to carry a nurse, telling her that she is one of the coronavirus carriers, so he refused to carry her. If that is so, I am not blaming the taximan. It is not the right thing to do. But because of the fear that all of us in Jamaica have, not only taxi operators, everybody in Jamaica have this fear of the coronavirus, so people act irrational. People will do things that is not right. Now, we are asking for the government to have some kind of coordinated response to this virus, especially for transport operators, because as I said, it's 2 million of us.
The JATOO president spoke with our news team recently. Telecommunications provider Flow is appealing to criminal elements to cease senseless acts of theft and vandalism being leveled against operations even as the nation grapples with the ongoing COVID-19 crisis. Flow said its efforts to keep the country connected are being thwarted by thieves and vandals who, as recently as last weekend, destroyed network infrastructure in 2 separate incidents in the parishes of St. Catherine and St. James. Flow's country manager, Stephen Price, said the most recent incidents denied more than 7,400 customers, including businesses and other essential entities in the areas of Spanish Town and Montego Bay, access to fixed services. The Tax Administration Jamaica TAJ will be adjusting the operating hours of its offices to accommodate the recent declaration of an island-wide curfew beginning April 1. This means that effective April 1, all tax offices and the stamp office will be open to public from 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. daily. Similarly, all TAJ business offices, including the corporate area office, will now close at 3 p.m. Additionally, the Portmore tax office's Saturday operations will be suspended with immediate effect until further advised, in keeping with the Government of Jamaica's posture in fighting COVID-19. Customers are being reminded that several of TAJ's services can be accessed online at www.jamaicatax.gov.jm. Effective Wednesday, April 1, the standard rate of general consumption tax GCT payable in respect to taxable goods and services will be 15%. This is a reduction from the previous rate of 16.5%. The new GCT rate of 15% has been put in the Jamaica Gazette dated March 30, 2020. Persons wishing to obtain a copy of the Gazette pertaining to this new GCT rate may do so from the Government Printing Office. The Tax Administration Jamaica and the Jamaica Customs Agency will publish the usual bulletins and advisories with the updated information. The GCT/ was one of the measures announced by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark during the recent tabling of the 2020-2021 budget. Amid the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide, Jamaica is spreading a message of hope within the travel trade that is, with a 1-minute video encouraging viewers to practice safety measures while promoting the island's beauty and warm, hospitable people. Senior strategist at the Ministry of Tourism, Delano Sivright, posted on social media, primarily saying that it's being directed to Jamaica's key travel partners like agents and tour companies. Take a look.
These are unprecedented times when our courage and love for each other is tested by a global crisis. And while you have no choice but to postpone your travel plans, we understand it is the right thing to do, and we know the brighter days will return. After times of crisis, travel has always brought the world together and has allowed Jamaica to serve the world with one heart and as one people. To slow the spread of this unprecedented and challenging health pandemic, we urge you near and far to observe the many calls for social distancing. We're doing the same, and we look forward to when next we meet again. So even though we're many beating hearts, in times like these, our hearts beat as one. Jamaica, heartbeat of the world.
Today, Wednesday, April 1, is April Fool's Day, a time for pranks and a laugh, normally at the expense of others. However, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is warning the public to desist from any April Fool's shenanigans, especially if it involves COVID-19.
It's April Fool's Day, and I know there are many persons who have a habit of tricking people by saying what is not the case. I beg you, it's an extraordinary time with COVID-19. So let us forego the April Fool's Day tradition on this year. And remember, if you read something and you're not sure, then fact check. Visit the Ministry of Health and Wellness pages or website, my personal pages on social media, the Office of the Prime Minister or the Prime Minister himself. We will give timely, accurate information as the information becomes available. And if there are questions that require a response, we will provide that response. So let us face April Fool's Day this year with a genuine recognition of the accuracy and the importance of the accuracy of information. Let's work together to overcome COVID-19. Thank you.
The US dollar on Tuesday, March 31, ended trading at $135.39, down by 68 cents. That's according to the Bank of Jamaica's daily exchange trading summary. The Canadian dollar is being traded at $95.33, down from $97.94, while the British pound sterling is being traded at $169.17, up from $168.27. In regional news, we begin in Guyana, where on Tuesday the full court threw out the case filed by APNU AFC candidate Ulita Moore to block the nationwide recount of votes cast at March 2, 2020 regional and general elections. Anara Khan of InfoHub reports.
The full court of Chief Justice Roxanne George and Justice Naresh Harnan this morning ruled that the High Court does not have jurisdiction to hear the substantive arguments in the injunctions filed against the Guyana Elections Commission by private citizen Ulita Grace Moore. This decision has now rendered the interim injunction by Justice Franklin Holder discharged and Moore's application to block a recount of votes cast in the general and regional elections dismissed. Meanwhile, Justice Franklin Holder ruled that he does not have the jurisdiction to hear the matter against the March 13 District 4 declaration by returning officer Claremont Mingo.
I took the position the court has no jurisdiction to hear that matter nor set aside it. It's an issue for an election petition because there is a dispute as to whether JATOO figure of 114,000 plus for APNU and 80,000 plus for PBCJ conflicts with that of Mingo's 136.57 and 7. And that can only be resolved by the election court when an election petition is filed.
Boston stated that it is now up to the commission to make a decision.
The commission will have to decide what they will do, whether they will consider the report sent to them by Mingo and then declare the president and who is the winner. They will have to do that. This morning, the full court said the issue that Ulita Moore raised in relation to calling and the commission to do that is an issue for an election petition.
For InfoHub, Anara Khan.
In sports, we kick off with football, as the Kingston and St. Andrew Football Association's major and super leagues should know by the end of the week the decision on the way forward. The KSAFA major and super league competitions were suspended after the government of Jamaica announced a restriction on permits for public gatherings amid the coronavirus outbreak. Radio Jamaica Sports reported that officials of KSAFA will meet to discuss the way forward on Thursday. Also, the Premier League Clubs Association will be extending the suspension of the Red Stripe Premier League indefinitely as stakeholders agree to the completion of the league. At a virtual meeting of the directors held on Monday, the decision was taken to continue the suspension that started on March 12. 4 options were tabled at the meeting, 3 of which provided for the completion of the league, commencing at different start dates in May, June, or July, while the other was for cancellation. In a release, the association said another meeting is to be held sometime this month when government guidelines dictate, and they have addressed issues that would emanate from the plans to complete the season. And that's the news on PBCJ. Do remember to keep safe.